Hey everyone, let's see how many people will show up. So first time using a new platform, which is always exciting. So I gotta get used to this a little bit. If there's anyone here, then I would appreciate a comment just to show me that you're here. Then I know what's up with the new platform. By the way, using StreamYard. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. So far, so good. I see Andrew's in there, and I see it even adds. Let me see. Let me hide that one. Even adds subtitles, which is good because I'm not a native speaker, so hopefully that will help you people. So William, I appreciate the comments. So it's good to know that I'm actually live. And let me just close LinkedIn here. So what I'll do is I'll wait a little bit. I like I hope I pronounced that right. I'm good, thanks. How are you? So what I'll do, I'll wait a couple minutes before I get into the actual deck, the screen sharing, etc. So for everyone who is here early, just a bit of an agenda. So what I'll do is I'll describe what why we're here in the first place, because we've been running some pretty interesting experiments at Line. I don't know how many of you are actually Line users, how many aren't. So actually that would be a great first question if you could drop in the comments if you're currently using Line or not. But I'll explain why we're here, what it is that we've been doing, and how we can help you get more responses to your follow-up emails, because that's why we're here today in the end. It will be a short presentation, will be 20, maybe 25 minutes, where I'm going through just a couple of slides and mostly just showing examples of how we're implementing this and how we're setting it up. And then obviously by the end of this presentation, there will be time for questions. But if at whichever slide, maybe already the first slide, you have questions, just drop them in the comments, and then by the end of the presentation, so after the final slide, I will address the questions that you might have. So William, that is good to know. I love it when the timing is perfect. And yeah, excited to see how we can implement this into your new outbound campaign. So again, if you have any specific questions on how this might work for your campaign, then just please feel free to ask by the end of this, and then we can see how we can implement this exactly into your campaign. Anyone else who's going to start a new campaign this month? Crickets in the chat, so I'm assuming not. That means everyone has their campaign running. So things I cannot see here how many people are actually in there yet, so I'll wait one more minute and then I'll get started. And then for anyone who's wondering, yeah, there will be a recording available. So by the end of this event, I'll post the recording in the actual event, so you can download it from there. And they'll send it manually to everyone as well. So again, if you have questions, if you're not sure about anything, you'll receive the recording, and I'll share the deck as well. I think a lot of people, in my experience from doing other webinars, they find it also really helpful to get the deck as well. Timur, yes, I did now remember. I never replied to your LinkedIn message. I have a really good excuse. I'll let you know my excuse in the in the private message. But yes, so the webinar that we're doing right now is around that email that I sent you a while back. So yeah, if you bear with me for now, then I'll answer your question here, and I'll also most definitely reply. And Jacob, that's good to know. So yeah, this can definitely work for reactivating as well. We can get into some specifics there. Then if I actually bought someone a coffee, let me see, what was my exact, if it doesn't work, I'll buy you a coffee. No one has ever mentioned that it doesn't work. So no coffees have been bought yet. But if you're attending this webinar or watching the recording and it doesn't work for you, let me know, and I'll I'll PayPal you money for that coffee. That's or tea if you're a tea person. That's no problem. So let me get started. I'll share my screen right now. There we go. Well, I'll share the deck right now. So I put some really cool floodgates on here because the idea is that, hey, you're opening the floodgates to more replies and more demos with the new method that we'll be talking about today. So more demos through more effective bump emails or follow-up emails, whatever you would like to call them. So 200% more replies is what we've been seeing. Obviously, we tested it for a few campaigns, so we've seen 200, more than 200, but we're talking about follow-ups here, which is interesting in itself, and I'll show you some statistics on that in just a second. And I'm sure some of you have read this already. This was in the event. So my question to you is, how many demos would you book right now if the reply rates for your follow-up emails went up by 200 or 300%? So that's actually a pretty easy calculation. If you go into your email automation software, into Lemlist, Mailshake, whatever, anything, just have a look. You can see it usually broken down by, okay, you know what, first email gets a 5% response rate, second email gets a 2% response rate, and you know more or less, okay, you know what, I'm booking this many demos. What if that number would double, triple, quadruple? That would most likely be a number that really excites you, and that would most likely add some significant money to your bank account, or at least some value to your pipeline. So that's why we're here today, because as you'll know, the most of your, let's say, juice lies in that first email. So your host, you can see Andrew's beautiful face on there, but he is not here today because we're working on some really exciting stuff and updates for lyne.ai, and I did not want to distract him from that work, which is why I decided to host this myself. But full credit goes to Andrew because he's the one who more or less came up with the idea, with the experiment. So full credit to Andrew. So the promised statistics are right here. So when it comes to warm response rate, and here just some quick credit to growbots.com for the image and for the report that they did. So here you can see the warm response rate by follow-up. So right here on the bottom, you'll see like the initial message, the first follow-up, second follow-up, and as you can imagine, the warm response rate just goes down as you're sending more follow-ups, and naturally your first or sometimes your second message is where you're booking most of the demos. And I think when you start thinking about how you're drafting your own campaigns, naturally probably 80% of your effort goes into drafting that first message, and that's where most people really pay the most attention. You start looking for templates, but almost no one ever asks for follow-up templates. I mean, yes, some people do, but generally speaking, everyone's worried about that first initial email because everyone understands, okay, this first email is where we book the most demos, where most of your again, your juice lies is how I call it, where most of your benefit comes from, and that's obviously reflected in the statistics here as well. But why we're here today, if you want to see these numbers go up after the first email, and again, as you can imagine, that would do some significant benefit, that would do some significant good to your pipeline, to your bank account. Then here more statistics around the negative response rate. So people don't enjoy being spammed, obviously. So as people get further into your sequence, as there are more emails that they're receiving, at some point they're telling you to F off, they'll unsubscribe, they no longer enjoy receiving emails from you. I think that's something that pretty much everyone can relate to. The stop emailing me responses, the unsubscribe responses, the get the hell out of my inbox responses, they get more frequent as you're sending more follow-ups, which is really clearly reflected in the statistics right here. So the idea is obviously to impact that number positively and to make sure that we're lowering negative response rate and getting a more positive response rate. So Just some really quick napkin math. So imagine that you're sending emails to 1,000 contacts, to a thousand prospects, excuse me, and you're getting a 3% warm reply rate to that second or that third message. That means 30 demos booked, which is 20 more than what you're currently doing if you're having a 1% warm reply rate, which is more or less the average to follow up emails. It requires zero effort, what we'll be going over today, and you'll add a ton of value to your pipeline. So here's the basic idea. So what we were already doing is at Line, we have the option to add a personalized intro, personalized PS section to your first email. So this is a first email, so initial email that we're sending. So Timur, this one should look pretty familiar to you. So here we're saying, hey, Natalie, excuse me, I admire your volunteer experience. Curious to know, what you took away from that. Then something about our product, best, Andrew, PS, then the PS section. So these are the emails that we were already sending. So there's a first email, works really, really well. We were seeing really good numbers. At some point, we were doing between 12 and a 20% adjusted warm reply rate, which is obviously great. So we're really happy with that. But then we decided to experiment with where to actually put that PS section, because we figured, you know what, those follow-up emails, they need a lot of love as well, pretty much. So at Line, and I'll show you an example later, with our no touch line. So if you provide us with a LinkedIn profile, we give you up to 12 different columns that you can use. And then we figure, you know what, instead of just choosing one that you think is the best one and you use it as your intro, or maybe using two for that first email, why not just use all of those columns and just use them throughout your entire sequence. So then this, for example, is one of our third emails. So there's a final email saying, hey, you know what, Brad, no one likes to pass, so I'm circling back one final time. This is what we do. Interested, Peter. PS, this is something really interesting something interesting about you. And the great thing here, the main reason why I believe it works is because it's such a huge pattern breaker. Everyone now knows that email automation is a thing. Everyone knows that, you know what, I'm in a sequence. Everyone knows, okay, this is how it works. But no one is used to seeing this depth of personalization in a follow-up email. In a first email, yes, sure, they've seen it, but in a follow-up email, no one does it, because pretty much no one takes the effort to do it, and no one is capable of doing it, because it would require an immense amount of manual labor to personalize your entire sequence. So at our agency that I used to run, we would spend so many hours just personalizing first emails. So that first initial snippet that we will write for the first email, imagine the amount of hours it would take to personalize an entire sequence. So that's why no one is doing it. Absolutely no one in sales is doing it, except for maybe people, sales reps who are sending really low volume. They're sending 10, maybe 20 emails per day. More of an ABM type approach, I suppose. That's where you could potentially see that type of personalization, but that's a really, really low percentage, because let's be honest here as well, not every sales rep has the idea of doing it. Not everyone knows that's even an option. So here's another example. So same email, hey Tim, no one likes to pass, one final time checking in with you. Interested in having a chat. PS, notice you studied at James Madison. Go Jukes. Were you a fan of Jimmy Madison's? Again, no one uses that. It's a really major pattern breaker. And again, the reason why this works so well is because really no one is used to receiving this kind of email. And that's why we've seen it work so well. Now, when I say it works really well, obviously, you got to go with some numbers. So this is just one example, and it's obviously a pretty small sample size. So we send here one campaign to 350 people. So for the initial email, it says here 5.5% reply rate, but the adjusted reply rate is obviously a bit higher because our open rate here was pretty low. So here we had an open rate of 50%. So out of 173 people, 19 replied. So that's a adjusted reply rate of, let's say, 11-ish%. And then that's for the total sequence. Then for the first email, as you can see, 9 out of 81, so around, the same number, let's say around 11%. Then for follow-up number 1, that's almost as high. So if you're taking the one of the earlier slides into account, where the average was around 1% that people would get, then we're doing 6 times that when we're just looking at this number. But if we're taking the adjusted warm reply rate into account, so if we're just looking at the amount of opens, that is, we're doing 10 up to 11 times better than the industry average, just by having these personalized PS sections in here. So that's why that works so well. So just look at these numbers again. You can really imagine what this would do to your campaigns, what this would do to your pipeline, and to your bank account again. So when you're taking adjusted reply rate into account, we're doing 10, 11 times better than the industry average. And that was just for one campaign. So really quick on how to set that up. Again, I'm not sure how many of you have used Lyne in the past or are currently using lyne.ai, but we have a thing which is called no-touch lines. So what we do is you provide us with LinkedIn profiles, and we will provide you with up to 12 different snippets that you can use for personalization. So intros, PS sections, etc., which you can use throughout your entire sequence. So even if you're sending a 12-step sequence, in some cases you can personalize each and every step that you have in there. So that could be an email, that could be a LinkedIn message, heck, it could be even a text message. So you can personalize that entire sequence. So if you're in Lyne, you select the no-touch lines, you upload LinkedIn profiles, and then right now in the very near future, we'll be doing it a lot faster. But right now, you can you can process around 1,000 prospects per hour. So as you can imagine, the scale of that is immense. And this is what the result looks like. So you'll have a CSV file where we'll have different types of lines. So we'll have something around their educational experience, something around the local observation, around restaurants. But what we've also done, we've classified all of those into intro 1, PS 1, up to intro 9, PS 9. So what you then can do within your sequences, you can just simply add an intro 1 or PS 1 merge tag. You can enter that within your sequence. So the reason why we did that is for this exact use case where people want to personalize their entire sequence. So we've given you every single tool that you need to personalize your entire sequence and to do exactly what I just showed you, where you're not just personalizing that first email, which right now a lot of people are doing, but you're standing out by personalizing your entire sequence and your follow-ups as well. And that's how you stand out, and that's how you can achieve conservative numbers, 2 to 300% more responses to your follow-up emails. And in our case, looking at the industry average, we're achieving about 1,000% increase in responses looking at the industry average. So that's how that works. Honestly, that was the entire presentation already. So for more information, you can go to lyne.ai. We're there in the chat pretty much 24/7 to answer your questions. But since we're here right now, I'd be very excited to jump into any questions that you may have. Maybe specific use cases, specific things that you're looking to try, or specific questions that you have. So Tim was asking, what is the AI part of Lyne? So obviously there's a bit of proprietary technology in there that we cannot fully disclose, but we use AI for copywriting, so for the writing of our output, as well as for classification of information of the input. So the input that we receive, we classify that and we assign that in the correct way. So there are different types of touch points within our entire workflow where we use AI. So it goes for making sure the input is correct and making sure the output is correct. That's where we use AI. Then for no-touch lines, AI is a little bit less involved, rather than the classic lines that we have for the sole purpose of making sure that the output is always at a consistent level. Hope that answers your question. Anyone else with a question? Maybe Jacob, something around a reactivation sequence. So you mentioned that you're following up with dead leads. Is this something that you can see yourself using? Or William, you mentioned that it's perfect timing. You're setting up a new cadence, a new sequence. Is this something that you can see yourself using in your sequence? Then Lex is asking if it matters if you're a paid customer or not. So you mentioned that you didn't really like the results. So I'm really curious if you're either using the no-touch lines or if you were using classic lines. That's something that I'm curious about. So the classic lines, they're slightly more volatile. On average, we see an error rate between, let's say, 3 and maybe 5% there. But we're obviously moving towards, that 1 to 0%. And we're actively working towards that, and we're getting a lot closer. So the simple short answer to your question is, if it matters if you're a paid customer or not, no, that matters absolutely zero. I'll be happy if you drop us a line in the chat on lyne.ai. I'll add 50 more free credits to your account, and you can just try the no-touch lines as well. And you can see if that works better for you or not. If it doesn't, then we can look at your results together and we can see what might be going wrong. So yes, so just drop us a line in the chat and we'll set it up for you. Then William, so your first question, any email copy frameworks you use to get high response but they're personalized? So any case studies in SaaS or cybersecurity? Yeah, we do have a bunch of case studies on our website. So lyne.ai/case studies, I believe, case-studies. Either way, if you go to lyne.ai, there are case studies as well as examples. So we have examples just around SaaS. So I've written templates where I've shown you exactly how to implement all that. If you're seeing like, hey, you know what, these templates is not really what I'm looking for, I'm not sure if this works. Again, just drop a line in the chat saying, hey, I'm William from the LinkedIn Live event, and then we'll write a template for you, or we'll work together with you on those templates, making sure that you have a cadence that will work this March. Then Bram, hey Bram, how customizable is the AI port towards other use cases? So right now it's not very customizable with what we've currently built, but then again, we're definitely very able to build anything for other use cases. So if you let me know what you have in mind, then we can most likely explore what's possible there, because we've gotten pretty decent at building AI stuff. Good to hear from you, by the way. Then Richard, that's good. I appreciate you helping William out. And then input is inbound, output is outbound. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by that. So what I mean by input is the information that we digest. So we obviously scrape some information from the prospects that you're looking to reach out to, and then we use different types of technologies to process that information, which is input, and then what you as a user then receive is the output. Yes, that Bram, yeah, definitely, let's be in touch. Just I think you still have my number, otherwise you obviously have my LinkedIn. I missed Dan's question. Really sorry about that. So on LinkedIn, what would you suggest to use during the connection phase? So the good part is that the snippets that we provide, they're really short. So during the connection phase, you have around 300 characters. And the intro and PS ones that we provide, they're really short. So on average, they're even way below 180 characters. So you really have quite a few options there. So just if we would go back to some of the examples right here in the slide. So just this one, for example, a study one. So for example, hey Dan, notice you're in the SaaS space as I am, would love to connect. PS, notice you studied at James Madison, go Dukes, were you a fan of Jimmy Madison's? I could definitely see that working. So a PS section like this would most definitely work during the connection phase as well. I think it might work even better than an intro. So again, just have a quick look at the samples that we have on our website. So we have several examples, and you see if you can see that working for you. I really feel that the PS sections that we provide in our output, that is stuff that can work really well. And I know from experience that a lot of people are using it for LinkedIn, and a lot of really big companies are using it for LinkedIn as well. So yeah, this definitely works during the connection phase as well. Then Timur, have you done any research on the use of Line on different geolocations? So yeah, we offer different languages. So we offer several languages, including French, Dutch, German, Spanish, Portuguese. So yeah, languages, we offer several ones. Our match rate is slightly lower outside of North America. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But yeah, it definitely works for other languages. The use of different types of language, so not necessarily a different language, but different types of wording or different types of approaching things. That's not something that we have explored just yet. It's definitely a good point to bring up because we have quite a few users from the UK, and we have definitely noticed that they have different, let's say, requirements than users from North America. Just the way that, just their vocabulary, just the way that they communicate is different than our US customers, for example. So it's an interesting point. It's not something that we're working on currently, but it's definitely something that we have in the back of our minds when it comes to using different type of language or different type of frequency length or anything. And then length of cadence slash response frequency. Not sure if you mean tied to different geolocations. If you're asking that, then no, that's not something that we've experimented with. If you're asking generally speaking, the length of cadence, or the length of the email, anything. So and we can go back here to this slide, for example. As you can see, even by the 10th follow-up, you're still getting responses. So a lot of people, they swear by, follow up until you get a response. We personally go with like a 3 or 4 step sequence, just because we know that we can make a follow up so effective that by the time we get to that fourth follow up, if someone hasn't responded, then like we might schedule out something like a new campaign, a reactivation campaign for them later, just to see if they follow up. But like usually we'll go with a 4 step cadence or a 4 step sequence. And when it comes to emails, I always say the shorter the better. Then Jacob, good to know that you don't have any questions, and really excited to hear that you're going to start using Line soon. Again, if you have any questions, anything, we're in chat almost 24/7, so just really feel free to reach out. Then I saw some samples that make reference to the person job change, which I think is pretty neat. What setting do we need to put in to get those lines specifically? So when you select no touch, we provide that one plus other ones as well. So I can go back to the slide where I have the output. So as you can see here, you have university, observation, education, etc. The thing is, not for each and every single profile we're able to get that information. The one that you mentioned, we're able to get for pretty much every profile. And that one is under personal transition. So if that is your favorite, then you can just ignore the intro, PS, etc., and you can just use personal transition line as your merge text. You could say, "Hey Hans, notice you're in the SaaS page. Would love to connect. PS merge text personal transition line," and then that's the one that you'll always use because that's your favorite. And yeah, that's why we have the actual ones, so the university, education, etc., and the PS ones, just to make sure that if you have a favorite, you can always go with that one. But keep in mind that sometimes there will be an empty column, which is why we've created intro PS, just to have, columns that always have something in there. So if your platform doesn't have a fallback option to keep in place, then you can use those. So if it doesn't make any sense, let me know. Then we can schedule a one-on-one demo, and I can show you exactly what that looks like. That goes for everyone else as well. If you're not 100% sure what those different types of columns, what they mean, how to set up fallbacks in your in your automation software, etc., let me know, and we can get on a one-on-one demo. So it looks like that is the final question. I know there's a bit of a delay on between me and the LinkedIn Live, so I'll wait another minute or so. If I don't see any other questions coming in, then I'll end the broadcast, and then I'll send everyone the recording. I'll share a deck with everyone as well in case you're interested. And then obviously I would like to invite everyone to our next LinkedIn Live as well. We'll be hosting these really frequently, most likely every single week. And we'll go over some what I like to think are really interesting topics that are all focused around making sure that you're getting more responses to your cold outreach. And Richard, if you're still here, I haven't responded to your email yet, but I will do so after I end this broadcast. I just realized I didn't do that. And thanks for showing up. I hope you enjoyed that. So again, I don't see any other questions. There's a bit of delay. I will wait a little bit longer, and then I'll end the broadcast. And for the people I haven't connected with yet on LinkedIn, I'll make sure to connect on LinkedIn as well, so that you're able to easily catch the next LinkedIn Live, which will most likely be same time next week, or maybe a little bit earlier next week, but most likely on Wednesday as well. All right, so seems there are no more questions. So if I cut off your question just because of the delay that we have here, then just head over to lyne.ai and just reach out in chat with your question that you have, and then we'll answer it in there. Or here in the LinkedIn event, there's a networking section as well that you can use, and then you just drop it in there, and that works as well. So thanks a lot for showing up to everyone to our first ever LinkedIn Live session. I had a great time. I hope everyone else did as well. I hope everyone learned something. I hope everyone is now excited to try out Lyne. If you already tried out Lyne, you want to try it out again, let me know. We'll add some extra credits to your account. There for now, thanks again for showing up. To some people, have a great rest of your day. To other people, have a great evening. And I'll see you in the next LinkedIn Live. See ya.